Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report. It's our big sale for Independence Day weekend, and it started at midnight last night, goes to midnight on Monday. And Ryan, it's the summer, and I guess everybody's doing summer activities. Which nutraceuticals would you recommend for summer activities? Say the top 3 or 4.
All right, let me just go with summer has lots of kids around, at least around my house and neighborhood, and it seems like I need to keep up with them all the time to do fun things like going swimming and running around and playing games and doing different stuff. I'm going to start with Sports Energy Light. I think that this formulation is something that everybody already uses, something that helps them with energy. And that might be something that's like a coffee drink, or maybe it's something you pick up at a convenience store that's extremely popular. I mean, Americans spend somewhere in the range of $16 billion a year on things like this. But typically they have very unhealthy attributes to them, and a lot of people would love to find something that's a healthy, good, awesome drink to have that tastes good and you want to have it. So this is something that Sports Energy Light is really unique. One, the caffeine that's in here is a pretty small amount, 95 milligrams, but it's got an extensive half-life, so it allows you to get this beneficial effect for many, many hours. In human clinical studies, they showed increased cognition, focusing, and energy at 6 hours, where a coffee, for example, with just straight caffeine, you're looking at in about an hour and a half, having virtually no effect on your body other than you feeling like you want to get some more caffeine. It also is loaded with antioxidants, things like S-acetylglutathione, no small amount either, very significant, and then also things like 500 milligrams of the pH-balanced vitamin C. Then you've got a whole host of other ingredients. And then along with that, a lot of electrolytes. So when you're out there in the hot sun sweating it out, or you're doing your exercise regimens and everything else that you want to do, it's great to be replacing those electrolytes, where most of the sports drinks on the market are very imbalanced in what they offer. You know, they might have a little bit of sodium and potassium, but they're very imbalanced in their electrolytes. And this is 20 calories, no sugar, no weird sweeteners or anything that you don't want to be putting in your body. So I would start right there, refreshing and perfect fit.
Yeah, it really is amazing, isn't it? The other things I think I'd like to start with in terms of fitness is I like my special drink. I call it my power drink, which is Sports Energy Light. I put D-ribose and acetyl-L-carnitine. We also have a new capsule tablet now called NADH. I like the Sports Energy Light with Brain Mag during the day, and ALC 1000 D-ribose. Really amazing stuff. One of the things I think that people should realize is long before you get symptoms or signs, long before you get cancer, heart disease, there are bad things going on in your body. And the body can't handle these things unless you have the activated forms of vitamins. Even if you have an organic diet, people don't realize this. If you could somehow go back with our current genetic load and our toxins in our body to the Garden of Eden, people still wouldn't do well. Because an organic diet, even if it's pristine, your body still has to activate the vitamins, which it can't because it's got a genetic defect or a metabolic blockade caused by a toxin. So you have to detoxify, and you have to jump the gene defect with activated forms of vitamins and nutrients. And the only formulas to do that are NutriMeds, because every other vitamin company will give you a vitamin in a non-activated form, so then your body is still in the same quandary. In fact, if you take non-activated vitamin B6, you can actually cause a peripheral neuropathy and affect on the central neural pathways of the Wernicke and Korsakoff's motor speech areas of the brain. So people should start to realize that, going back to Eden isn't even going to fix it with our current genetics and our current toxin load in our body. Taking NutriMeds will. It'll fix the problem because it jumps it. When I hear people that panic, and the most common thing they panic is over a folic acid polymorphism. They are all panicky, and they try to attribute every symptom they have to folic acid. I said, it's real simple. Take bio-LVR to start. Whether it's a chronic depression or methylation pathway problem like elevated homocysteine that's burning their brain tissue and burning their artery walls. And if they have to bump it up, they go to samethyl, pyromethyl B12 superfolate, and the problem solved. Brian, can you explain to our people what makes NutriMed so different? Because every other company, whether it's longevity or big box vitamins like General Nutrition Store, GNC, etc., they all have basically inferior nutraceuticals that cannot either be bioavailable or they're not in the bioconverted form that's in the final metabolic stage for the body. They can't compete, can they?
No, I mean, this is one of those things where a lot of people, it's just like they put together products and say, hey, here you go. That looks good on the label. But, most people are completely unaware, one, of their body's needs, and then for milligram amounts or microgram amounts, but then the bioavailability, how well does that nutrient specifically get utilized by the body and absorbed by the body. And so when you talk about the NutriMed line, and you brought up the issue of folate, for example, knowing that throughout the line, when you use the products in the NutriMed line, you are going to get the most state-of-the-art form of folic acid. The fourth generation, they call it a folic acid. That is it's actually a glucosamine salt-bound folate that allows for in head-to-head competition against some of the other versions that are in the marketplace, the best versions of the marketplace. This is a 10% greater bioavailability to the body, and that's something that's just part of what's in the NutriMeds as foundational. And then as you were talking about the where do you find this and what do you need for folate to support your body? Make sure you're methylating properly. And number one, something like as simple as Vitamineral Max. Make sure you start with a multivitamin that already has these things built in, the activated forms of B vitamin, the high-end folic acid, to make sure that your body can use it. When we say the words like methylation, people are like, well, what does that really mean? I think that one of the best, examples would just be thinking about a car and a motor, and if it's got 6 cylinders, if your car's only running on 3 cylinders, that's probably not ideal. It's probably harder to get up the hills of life with a car that only runs on 3 cylinders. Think of methylation the same way. If you're hiccuping and you're only using, 4 or 3 out of the cylinders, you want to make sure you got the nutrients so that also 6 cylinders are firing. That would be a good example for methylation and why you want to use something like Vitamineral Max, no matter who you are, the foundational product. And then, as you were saying, Dr. Bill, build on from there, the bio-LVRs, for example, being supportive of more people that have more significant folate issues or methylation challenges.
We talked about that in the first hour. We had an interesting consult from a lady this morning. She had an elevated TSH, chronic low body temperature, elevated reverse thyroid hormone, which indicates she's got TRS, or thyroid resistance syndrome, which is tied with metabolic syndrome. You'll see decreased receptors for leptin and for insulin. Increased levels of glucagon if you measure it. By the way, when I ask endocrinologists in their diabetic or pre-diabetic patients, do they measure glucagon as well as insulin? And 0 do it. I did it in our insulin glucose tolerance test back 35 years ago with the head pathology. And we found abnormal glucagon levels as well as insulin and abnormal levels of reverse thyroid hormone. So the problem is, you see, that the doctors, even the ones that consider themselves self-specialists, basically are at kindergarten level understanding of this. And when you give NutriMed, you start to fix the problem. We give leptin metabolic to reverse the insulin and leptin resistance. We give the carbo block to lower your insulin and glucagon levels, because glucagon, I call it the Snicker bar per hour effect, where your liver and kidneys are going to turn protein, which you've eaten, like salmon or steak, into sugar. So it literally converts it back into sugar while you're sleeping. Isn't that evil? And then, of course, we have Glycemex, which stabilizes your blood sugar, cuts down your insulin. A lot of people think, for example, there's some new drugs out now, new diabetic drug they're trying to flog as a treatment for obesity, but the real issue is, let's get your blood insulin down and your blood glucagon down, and let's stop the peak insulin level, which is the primary driver for glucagon because it's counteracting insulin. And then when your body starts to actually normalize your metabolism. If you don't do that and you eat rapidly absorbed carbohydrates like beer, bread, I call it the big B's, big bad B's. If you do get rid of the beer, bread, and the rapidly absorbed, carbohydrates, carbos, B, you're going to end up driving blood insulin up and glucagon. So that's important. And a lot of people, when they want to get fit during the summer, it's not just getting blood sugar down, it's getting insulin and glucagon, getting your reverse thyroid hormone level down. And, of course, if you don't do these other things, it won't work. Back, and Ryan, so that, we have lots of things. This is the time of year when people travel. One of my favorites is Med. And, of course, we have our NutrioDine, our MONATOMIC Tesla-activated iodine. We have Silver 100, but one of my favorites, and it passes through the biofilm, is Med. We do have Alamax and Alamed, which are been around for a little longer, but the Med, you're getting at 200 milligrams more at a far better price than Alamed. That's going to stop a lot of these pathogens. We have lots of things for blocking allergy. We have AllerBlock for the seasonal allergies. We called it Allergon, but I'm going to change the name because we're taking it out of that name, Allergon, because it's confusing to people. It sounds similar to AllerBlock. It actually should be called Histaminase because it gets rid of histamine. which is really unique because you have histamine in your food or your body makes histamine. Histamine bumps what's called interleukin-1 beta and other cytokines, so it's helpful for autoimmune disease, for allergy, for asthma, and for people with even CNS effects. Because a lot of people will end up with high histamine levels crossing the blood-brain barrier and messing up their brain pathways and their mood and causing everything from insomnia to making kids real hyper, adults depressed, etc. So histamine, did you like that name?
Yeah, I think it could be a really good name. It's people, get used to it. Histaminase. They need to take away the key word there, the histamine aspect. And you're right. There's a little probably confusion between, say, the name sounding like Allergon, Allerblock. I'll just use which one's cheaper. Does it do the same thing if they do not? This formulation of Allergon is very unique. It's actually an enzyme.
Right.
That enzyme
and by the way, it's the only one of its kind. There's nothing like it in the world. There's no comparison. People say, well, do you have another comparison to my product? No. Most of our 7-star products in NutriMeds do not have a comparable product by any other company out there, period. Because they're more bioavailable. Even when we have our berberstatin, it's far more bioavailable, far more powerful than anybody else. Same with our things like BioLVR, has activated B6, B12, and folic acid in its activated form. One of my favorites that I like to have many times during the day actually is Brain Mag. And the Brain Mag and Sports Energy Light Drink, I'll probably do it at the top of the hour break in about half an hour and make up some more. It's fantastic. And during the night, I'll take the Brain Mag and Calm Mind. I usually take 2 or 3 scoops in the evening. Rather than having a drink, I can have Brain Mag and Calm Mind. And before sleep, do that in combination with melatonin TR, and boom, you're going to slide off to sleep and have beautiful dreams. If you want resilient dreams that you will remember, take Cognition Plus and Brain Power. You may even add Synaptin, but take Cognition Plus and Brain Power along with your Brain Mag and Calm Mind, and you're going to sleep like a baby, but you're going to have lucid dreams where you're in control. You solve problems. You go places you can't travel there. Or maybe you don't want to travel there because it's too dangerous, or you want to do what I call crazy things, like you jump in a bat suit and jump off, say, Mount Everest. You can do it in your dreams and you don't die. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
You have to have a little sense of humor with this, hey? And of course, we talk about stopping oxidative stress. We have Nutritrala, our long-acting alpha-lipoic acid, extremely important, recycle both fat and water-soluble antioxidants. Regenerex, that regenerates your antioxidant systems. And, of course, the Supernox, which is very important for releasing nitric oxide. The singlet oxygen, we have cell detox, glutathione for getting rid of hydroperoxy, carnosine for getting rid of singlet oxygen. It's really important to stop oxidative stress. Our green C Select is very good at grabbing toxic chemicals. NutriDefense and Xenoestrogen Detox. I had someone ask me about Agent Orange. How do you get rid of Agent Orange? Well, they start off with Xenoestrogen Detox and NutriDefense and BioLVR. Start off with those for methylation pathways. And then we can bump it up with Samethyl, Superfolate, Pyromethyl B12, because you're trying to help your detox. And Green Tea Select. Green Tea Select and NutriDefense are very good at grabbing biotoxins, including xenoestrogens and things like 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, which are in Agent Orange, that are still in the people. Even in their second and third generation, it's causing Chiari malformations and fetal defects in the upper brain. If it doesn't cause a neural tube defect in the lower spinal cord, it can cause it at the base of the brain. So you often don't see these unless you do a fancy MRI scan of the brain to actually look at the brain. So Ryan, what about Calm Mind? The combination with Brain Mag, what would you recommend for that? And because we use it for anxiety, we use it for PTSD, we use it for addictions where people are smoking or drinking. I personally am against the idea of the legalization of marijuana. I think it's stupid because current marijuana is anywhere from 10 to 30 times stronger. And the hallucinogens make people have equipment failures and car accidents and other things. We know that. I knew when I was an MRO officer working with industries, I saw lots of industrial accidents. When I get the MRO test back, they'd have THC levels off into orbit. And they'd stick forklifts through their body or break something, equipment, or pin themselves between that and a wall on the equipment because they misjudged distances. You want to get off addictions like alcohol, cigarettes, whatever? Calm Mind. Tell us, why do you think it works?
Well, I think it's solving a nutrient deficiency for people that it does work for, and that's a lot of people, how quickly it can have its effect. For a lot of people,
Right.
15 to 20 minutes is when they start feeling the first effects of a dose. But it has a lot to do with deficiencies in something known as myo-inositol, which is a nutrient. It's in the B vitamin family, but that's a critical element in the communication of neurotransmitters in the brain, and so and other parts of the body. But in particular, when you're talking about these issues where you have cravings and anxiety and raging and things like that, your body may be trying to communicate properly to put itself back in balance, but can't due to this deficiency. And so by adding this, all of a sudden people are like, wow, that's very interesting. I don't feel anywhere near what I did, the same way. I'm not craving that I need to have alcohol or sugar or certain, drugs or I don't have that anxiety issue that I just had 30 minutes ago. That tells you that there is something going on in your body not being able to properly communicate. And if this is one of those issues, Calm Mind is going to work like, a wonderful.
Another one I find helps work with that, believe it or not, is cod liver liquid. Cod liver liquid is interesting. I remember back in private Catholic school when I was in the 50s, and the nuns would get all together there, and they'd say, okay, line up all the kids, and they'd give us a big tablespoon of cod liver liquid. This is far higher caliber quality. It's orange flavor, so it tastes good. It doesn't taste like, awful. The other stuff they had back then tastes very fishy. And it contains phospholipids that repair your brain. It contains vitamin A, D, E, and K. It's actually will lower your cholesterol levels head-to-head better than HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors, but it doesn't fry your brain or demyelinate it or make your brain shrink. Cod liver liquid actually is very calming, too, isn't it, combined with things like Calm Mind. That's one of the combinations I found very helpful. Another one is Posonol, or adaptogen. And the combination of Brain Mag and Calm Mind, the Brain Mag, it stops the oxidative stress in your brain of the microglia, which are the supporting cells. They're also the immune cells of your brain. Or the microglia, they're not just supporting, but your brain literally sits inside a matrix of immune cells. Isn't that interesting? And for every neuron, there's around 1,000 to 10,000 microglia that are supporting it. Even providing nutrients, feeding it across, almost like manufacturing molecules and feeding the neuron with them. Pretty neat. So, you want a healthy brain? This is how you do it. Back in a moment with more amazing solutions for your health. If you have any NutriMed questions, 800-259-5791. Call in live anywhere on Earth. And one of the things that happens when people change their diet during the summer or any other time of the year is they end up with their bowels kind of messed up. And we have all kinds of things. I want to start off with the more common things. Gastritis, you want to use Gastro Heal and IBS Care. Maldigestion, you want to use Digestes and Gastrozyme. Digestes will restore your pepsin and stomach acid production, and Gastrozyme. Very commonly, if you're pre-diabetic, you want to be taking a lactose blocker and carbo blocker. A lot of time people don't realize that milk sugar is messing up their blood sugar as well. And carbo blocker is fantastic. It's more powerful than acarbose, which doctors prescribe, diabetologists, so to even out your blood sugar. Our carbo blocker is far more powerful, and we have the only neutral pH lactose blocker. Then we go down to small bowel overgrowth. I like berberstatin, Allicin Med, and you don't want to, for the small bowel, you're not trying to recolonize it for the large bowel. So berberstatin, Allicin Med, and I would use Gastro Heal, which will heal the gut wall lining, as well as immunoglobulins, NutriImmune, because immunoglobulin deficiency in the brush border of the villi of the bowel, small bowel, is part of the reason why the bowel breaks down. You get, we call leakage. You can do a zonulin test at McGuffey Labs, or you can do a lactulose mannitol test at directlabs.com to Genova Metametrics to actually measure your urine output after you take some basically lactose and mannitol, and it'll show how it leaks across. Then, of course, we get to large bowel dysbiosis. And if you got a dysbiosis, you're on your way to developing cancer because you have deconjugating bacteria. So you want Living Probiotic from Roselle, strict 6 strains from Paris, and Living Probiotic Ultra, the most powerful probiotic on the planet. And you want Colon Cleanse. Colon Cleanse is really important for keeping your bowel moving. A lot of people, especially women after their 30s, tend to become quite constipated, and a lot of people are constipated. I call it the rail yard analogy, and people say, well, I go every day. I said, yeah, but how many boxcars are sitting in a rail yard? I said, well, What do you mean, Doc? I said, well, you can have 2 boxcars in the rail yard, and that's not too bad, so that each time you go daily, the mass stool is only sitting in your bowel maybe for a day before you get it out because it's got toxins in it, bacteria, heavy metals, and all the other garbage your body's dumping out of your liver to get rid of. And I said, but if it sits around for days and you get deconjugating bacteria that re-release those toxins, you reabsorb them, they concentrate in your brain, liver, pancreas, breast for women, prostate for men. And I said, it's really important. If you got 12 boxcars in the rail yard, you've got serious obstipation. You may be still going daily, but you got a big, full rail yard. What do you think of the analogy?
That's a good imagery, I think, for people to consider.
I call it the rail yard analogy. It makes people say, well, you mean I got too many boxcars? I say, yep. If you have too many boxcars, you're going to get cancer. Not necessarily just of the bowel, but of any other organ, because your toxins are being deconjugated, or being conjugated by the liver to get out, and heavy metals. And if they sit around your bowel, you're going to get diverticulosis, number one, which can put you at risk of left-sided appendicitis when they rupture eventually, or you get a serious infection there and get toxic megacolon. Or you re-release the toxins and you reconcentrate them in distant organs, from your bone marrow to your brain to liver to all kinds of organs. Most people don't realize it's the lower bowel that's the seat of cancer. It's the lower bowel. Nasty, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that it's a topic that a lot of people don't even want to discuss, but it's such an important thing that, if you're trying to become healthier, really to be able to live a healthier life, you got to make sure that bowel is really working properly, because it's really, it's been said for, many, many hundreds of years, death starts in the colon. You need to make sure it's working.
Yeah, that's a good one. Death starts in the colon. Yeah, exactly. They used to say that the fish rots from the head down. The human rots from the gut up, from the lower bowel up. How's that?
Well, for me, that is exactly what so many people should be focusing on. And products, like detoxification and stuff like that, you get the bowel working, and you're adding in things like life support and ageless and things like that then help to just nourish the GI tract and keep it working properly, and at the same time work so well systemically to control the inflammation and make sure that the liver is conjugating those toxins and moving them back to the bowel so that they can be removed properly.
Yeah, and when you want to regenerate organs, you want to have NutriFos, NeuroGen, omega fatty acids like Omega Supreme Krill especially, NutriFos and NeuroGen. And you want Copper Regenemax as well as Minerals Plus. Minerals Plus as well as Vitamin Mineral Max. If you don't have all the minerals present, your body can't regenerate solid organs. You need the phospholipids, NutriFos and NeuroGen. And Copper Regenemax is our new copper sabacate to help along with the vitamin of the Minerals Plus and Vitamin Mineral Max. One of the biggest problems we have is mitochondrial energy. We have CoQ10 ubiquinol. People say, why do I need that? I said, because it's more absorbable than a CoQ10. It's the reserve form. So when I tell people whether it's heart failure, hypertension, or brain problems, and they've actually done a new study and found the best form of CoQ10 to regenerate your gums and to protect your brain from oxidative stress is not the CoQ10 regular Supreme, which is good for your heart because it's immediate action. It's the CoQ10 ubiquinol. So if you're trying to regenerate your gums, I'm going to bite a CoQ10 ubiquinol a couple times a day. If you're trying to protect your brain, you want to take a couple of soft gels twice a day of the CoQ10 ubiquinol. Then if you're trying to increase cardiac energy, I have the CoQ10 Supreme, usually double the dosage as the CoQ10, so 4 soft gels twice a day if you have heart failure, hypertension, low energy levels, etc. But it's interesting, the ubiquinol is the one that actually protects the brain and the kidney, the peripheral nerves, etc. more. Then, of course, you need a proper form of carnitine. We have the VascuCare carnitine, which is a propionyl carnitine, and we have IBS Care slow release. And then we have things for mitochondrial support, mitochondrial catalyst, uridine, and, of course, the most important of all, NUTRIODINE, or monatomic Tesla-activated iodine. If anybody lies to you and tells you they have anything equivalent to it, they're liars. There's nothing equivalent to our NUTRIODINE. It's the only Tesla-activated monoatomic plasma form of iodine in the world, period. End of story. That lady we talked about in the first hour had a very nasty scarring from taking Lutera, which is a birth control pill, and we tell them to take hormone synergy. Women that are getting acne, very first thing is get off the pill, number one. Number two, take hormone synergy. Take things to heal your skin, NutriFos, NeuroGen, and Collagen Max, and anti-inflammatory curcumin cream. and anti-inflammatories, Inflamex and curcumin tablets, the cell defense. So let's talk about some of these things, hormone synergy. If you want to prevent female hormone from converting to male and vice versa, if you want to stop hot flushes, our hormone synergy, or we call flash away, that's the other name for the same product, is really important for people to get what we call birth control pill-induced acne. And also, we don't want women to start growing hair in odd places, male pattern places, or going bald because they're getting male pattern baldness because they're generating male hormone. And their hair follicles think, oh, you were a girl, but now you're sort of boyish because you're making boyish hormones in your ovaries. I think I'll make you bald. How's that? And the body doesn't care. It just kind of follows orders. So, Ryan, tell us about hormone synergy.
Yeah, this is a formulation that is, designed to help people keep that balance with regards to the, estrogen metabolism. Make sure that it's not being overwhelmed in the body, which is very easy for us to get kind of out of whack. That's men or women. And as you were alluding to, in order for us to all operate like we should, we need to make sure that we detoxify the hormones. Kind of whether we take it or whether we make it, we need to be able to get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. What about the hormone synergy is really important too, also for stopping not only hot flashes but also stopping we call the mood switches that happen around with major hormone changes. They can distress so many people. They make a big difference.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. You got the whole seasons of life and people moving into it could be a andropause, men working into the same kind of scenario where they're going into a menopause, menopause, right?
Yeah, it's funny they call it andropause. I always think that they call it menopause for menses for women, but it would be simpler if you just say menopause is when men pause. But I'm just kidding. Andropause is for men, menopause is for women, and you can buffer it a lot by taking women the femgesterone cream and hormone synergy and taking DHEA and pregnenolone. And welcome back. And Ryan, when we're talking about NutriMeds, we have some amazing integrated protocols here. And we also combine them with what I call the very best of medicine. People don't understand that we're not just saying we're not, quote, selling or talking about a vitamin. For example, when we add things like curcumin cream to treat acne, like that lady last hour that took Leuctura and got very nasty scarring. It is a liposomal anti-inflammatory. It's also a base for a special cellulite cream that I'm actually going to post up this weekend. I've actually been working on updating the formula, which is why I didn't post it. We have, of course, other nutraceuticals to deal with so many other problems. One of the biggest problems is diabetes. 2/3 of the adult population in America are obese. Obesity is a disease. It's not just overeating. The drugs that they give now, there's a research drug that they've been working on actually for diabetes, and they give a higher dosage and they can actually make people lose weight. But you can do that naturally. So if you start taking diabetoline and biotin plus, chromium cruciferate and minerals plus, you're going to start to reverse the insulin resistance. Leptin metabolic will actually change your leptin and insulin resistance patterns. And of course, carbo blocker will lower your blood sugar and insulin, glucagon levels, and glycemics, replace meals and snacks. In fact, that's what my breakfast was a glycemics, ageless life support, NutriComplete drink with a little, a brain mag, and I'll tell you, it's fantastic. And I give it to my daughter when we're on the run and we just don't have time for breakfast. And it gives you a complete coverage of nutritionals and it keeps your blood sugar stabilized through the whole day. So diabetoline, biotin plus, minerals plus. Let's talk about these for a minute because it's a big problem. If you actually sample the population, the normal person's millunit of insulin should be around 2 millunits per mil for an adult. The average North American is anywhere from 4 to 8, and the person that's pre-diabetic is around 10 to 12 millunits. They only turn frankly diabetic when their blood sugar, their blood insulin resistance exceeds their capacity to put out insulin. And that might be 20 or 30 years in after they've already had hyperinsulinemia for 30 years, which by itself is also a toxin because it'll raise vascular growth factor to cause blood vessel problems, hypertension, and vascular disease in the eyes and kidneys. So people don't realize insulin is also a toxin as well as glucagon in high dosages. It has a toxic effect on the body. So, Ryan, let's talk about this. Syndrome X, diabetoline. If you want to lose weight, You got to fix the metabolism. Besides doing exercise and getting off the carbos and going on, say, a George Cruz diet with our glycemics and our carbo blocker and our lactose blocker, you've got to fix the metabolism. You can't just, quote, go on a diet and exercise program. Even if you've lost the weight, you're going to bounce back because the metabolism problem has not been addressed. And that's why I tell people, even if you lose weight on a program, you've got to stick on a lower carbohydrate diet. You got to stick, I call it the B's, bread, beer, and carbos. B for carbos.
Wow.
And
I love, using the shakes because they cover so much territory all at once, and not to mention
they're amazing.
They obviously serve as a meal replacement for people. So they need a healthy breakfast, they need a healthy snack. So something like glycemic meal really is phenomenal for people, and it makes them feel so good. It gets their energy balanced out very quickly, and it contains so many of the nutrients that you're discussing that you find in diabetoline or something like Carboblock. They're already tucked in there, so it's kind of a neat way to cover a lot of territory. So I encourage people to look at that one right off the bat. And then for people that are already, they're looking to improve the way their body's handling blood sugar, looking to improve their weight management, you look at something like diabetoline. That is a perfect formulation to start resensitizing the body to the message of insulin. Leptin metabolic is another very cool formulation where people that have a lot of appetite issues, they don't seem to be able to control the appetite, not just craving, but they're just sort of just hungry perpetually. That may be an insensitivity to the message of leptin. So leptin metabolic kind of targets that so that your body or your brain in particular can hear that message and say, hey, you know what, we have plenty of stored up fuel. And we don't need to keep shoveling down more. That's not helping us. And that can be a very helpful thing for a lot of people trying to do a better job with body composition.
Yeah, and the green tea select will boost metabolism, each one equivalent to 10 pots of green tea, each capsule. That'll boost your metabolism along with forskolin and, of course, our NUTRIODINE. But the green tea select is very, very helpful to burn off calories and to mobilize fat at the fat storage areas. The lipo flush, which is conjugated linoleic acid. I tell people if you're trying to get rid of cellulite or body fat selectively, not muscle, you want to take LipoFlush at least 2 soft gels twice a day, and that'll help along dramatically. One of the things we try to always do is get people to address the underlying issues. When people are trying to regenerate collagen, we recommend Collagen Max. I also add Her Majesty's Royal Jelly. Did more research and found it generates pro-collagen. If you're trying to regenerate joints, keratin in your nails, hair, you want to use Joint Performance and Tendon Mender. You can add Mountain Red Velvet, but the core is Collagen Max, Her Majesty's Royal Jelly, and I would say probably Tendon Mender Joint Performance, because a lot of people, they don't realize they're getting changes to the actual structure of the cartilage. If they've got increased joint inflammation like osteoarthritis, the leptin metabolic again has some amazing effects of stopping OA. And you can use Inflamex as well with that Inflamex, which is a Wobenzyme N formula with serapeptase. But leptin metabolic by itself will lower the hyperinsulinemic-induced inflammation in joints. So if you're eating bread, for example, and you're a woman, you're not necessarily overweight, but your joints are starting to get osteoarthritis, you've got hyperinsulinemia in syndrome X. It's actually causing increased cytokine levels or inflammatory molecules in your joints, and it's destroying them. That's why your joints are starting to get tufting. We call Heberden's nodes or Bouchard's nodes. These changes to your hands, for example, are caused by insulin-induced osteoarthritic degeneration. And by reducing the cytokines with the leptin metabolic, you can reverse osteoarthritis, along with Tendon Mender, Joint Performance, and Collagen Max, and inflammatories like Inflamex. So don't take the drugs the doctor gives because they're disease-modifying. They'll screw up your system and ruin your immune system. Tell us a little bit about Collagen Max and these other things for joints and OA.
Well, Collagen Max is working on, solving an issue with the rate-limiting step of production of collagen, elastin, and keratin. So quickly, if people want to look at their fingernails and start saying, are they weak? Do they not grow well? Do they break easily? Hair, is it thinning? Is it falling out? Is it breaking? Skin, are you seeing a lot of wrinkling, particularly in sun-exposed areas? That gives you an outward sign of what's going on with your body's ability to produce collagen, elastin, and keratin. And so taking something like Collagen Max not only can work on those outside areas, but that degradation you see externally is also happening in different areas internally, from bones to the joints to the different cartilage tissue. And so you want to make sure that you're repairing that, and your body can repair that. So, the Collagen Max formulation has been a huge, huge successful hit in the NutriMed line. It becomes a favorite because people try it, and then they see the difference on the outside, and they can feel differences of what's going on in their, joints and range of motion on the inside. And doctors love it if they're doing DEXA scans and things like that to show improvements in other areas like bone mineral densities and supporting people that way.
Yeah, it's not just the density of the bones because you have to crystallize on. The problem with even the DEXA scan is it doesn't pick up the bone strength because the rebar in the bone isn't picked up by these scans. The only thing that picks up the rebar, in a sense, is the deoxypyridinium and pyridinoline test done at Genova Metametrics in the urine. And it actually picks up the subunits of collagen that are present when you're ripping your bone apart. So if you stop having that in your urine, it means you're probably building it up, but you can't see it. The best thing to do is take Collagen Max and take Mountain Red Velvet, and you're going to rebuild the cartilage, and you can use technologies to increase that, like VibraSlim, exercise, lumen photon, and micropulse. But I tell people it's the most important is just Collagen Max, number one. That by itself will often do the trick, and Mountain Red Velvet. And then you crystallize with Bone Generator, Micelle D3, Myco D2. And by the way, for cancer, we have our Oncomycin, Myco D2, our nutraceuticals. If you got cancer and you take that and it's all you want to do, a number of people are going to get better just with that. And high-dose NUTRIODINE, high-dose Power C, because remember, cancer is an infection. It's an infection that causes epigenetic changes. So I wish people have a great 4th of July holiday, as I say, get a restoration to our Constitution. We need to counter a lot of out-of-control government here in California. We will do our best to give a spanking to the politicians that passed the SB bill for forced vaccines, the crazy water policies in the state, the crazy illegal activities of the late night TV host and chief in the White House, the abomination of desolation, I call him. We'll take care of him in the next number of months. And any new politicians that think they're going to get away with stuff, we're on their tail now. We have a big hour coming up here with Tim Alexander and Chris Harris, a major update on what's going on in Fukushima Daiichi. And as I say, have a great 4th. Thank you, Ryan. We'll see you back again on Monday. And take care, everybody, and take action.